Hi, good day everyone. First, I am introduce myself. So, I am Eileen Pala, the first reporter in this topic. So, the topic is all about the function of operation of the BSP or should we say Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. First, let's have talk about what is Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So the BSP is the provide policy direction, is the areas of money, banking, and credit. So, there have a BSP objectives or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas objectives is that the primary objective is to maintain price stability conducted to a balance and sustainable growth of the economy and also the employment. Then, there have 12 responsibilities of BSP o Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. First is the monetary policy. The monetary policy is the primary of BSP. There have a set of tools that the nation of central bank has available to promote sustainable economic growth by controlling an overall supply of money, and it's available to the nation banks, its customer and businesses. They have also important to manage economic fluctuation. Fluctuation is a change or a process of changing and advice of price stability. Second is the monetary operation. It means it's repair of implementation of monetary policy. It can be also related from the monetary policy of the first responsibilities. So, the monetary operation is ensuring that a central bank's policy decision has the intended impact of financial markets and also the economy and more generally. They have also a purpose. They have a purpose of day-to-day practical target is usually achieve a particular level of interest rates, and also the most efficient of instrument are those which best implement working of the market system. Third is the systematic risk management. That means it refers to uncertainty that is a common all assets and therefore affect most assets in similar way. Therefore, there have a pulling assets together does not reduce investors' exposure to stocks uncertainly. And also there have an important of that can be consideration of systematic risk in asset management and also reduce the risk of consequences of crisis for themselves. Fourth is the financial supervision. So means the financial supervision, they have to ensure the financial stability or the economic growth and also the development. That being banking transactions and contributing to that, so they have to supervise the operations. Fifth is the payment of settlement of system oversight. We all know in payment system, right? We have online transfer, we can send money of other people, we can pay online. Example for GCash and PayMaya and etc. That we can use online transactions. Even if other countries, even the seller is not around here in our country, we can pay through online transactions. So that may be possible by development of payments and settlement system. Also, of course, there an oversized board for that day ensuring that they transactions are between individuals, banks, and financial institutions. So we are very convenient of online transactions or online payment of goods and services. It can be help situation of economic transactions because people they can be convenience of online payment also today, more likely to buy goods and also services. Sixth of the responsibilities is the currency management. So it's no longer just a gold, also the assets of the BSP, o should we say Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. This is still gold and that, but against the assets now, all notes and coins issued by the BSP are fully guaranteed here in our government and considered legal tender for all private and public debit. Again, so the medium of exchange, so kailangan natin the currency to be functional of the acceptable as a form of payment. So the 7 is the exclusive finance. So the BSP, of course, they have circular arts of right. They have mandates to have banks and other financial institutions, which is they needed to support. For example, the government of priority of industry, they would provide some sort of mandate that you should use at least a certain percentage of your assets and lead them to his particular group of industry. For example, the LBP, we know that the priority of farmers and fishermen. The DBP, they are prioritizing small and medium enterprising barangay, or enterprising has will Philippine Banks of Islamic People. 8 is the loans and credit operation. So depending on the situation sa ating economy, so the BSP could be increased and decrease the interest rates, and then the banking institution, they could be also provide loans or advances. Normally these are just short terms because essential the banks have their own money, so sometimes the cash available in banks would not be enough to supply, so they could be borrow or make advance from the BSP for that. So normally has the smaller or yung mga maliliit na bangko be more susceptible to you having financial pressure or financial troubles. So in that sense, they could be asked the BSP for advances so they would help them. 9 is the international reserve management. So this means more on support for the strength of peso against the other countries in the foreign exchange. The 10 of responsibilities is the international operations. So it means it's not just an international economy, and also it just a national economy. Here in the Philippines, sometimes the price, ability power of peso would also affected by external factors because of the international operations. 11 is the international economic cooperation. Means we have international financial institution, the IMF, the World Bank. Sometimes they do extended loans to the Philippines. Anyways, it is helpful in times of our needs. For example, during the pandemic, in a few years ago, we need cash institution to provide cash aid and to need that. Anyway, it could be negative and such that our debit are increasing, but we do have the chance to where to set money increase we have in need of it. Also, aside from that, they have programs that would help us improve the financial system for our country. 12, the lastly is the economic educations. It means they do try to educate the public as well, especially currently the online information or the data privacy information should be not shared with other. And then of course the understanding of economic like low supplies and demands, so that they would not be surprised. Make comments like economic or senseless, like why can't be government just raise more money, you have it right.
Good day, everyone. So, I am Jerlyn L. Malias. So, I am the next reporter. So, the next topic is about the core function of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, the main function of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is to promote is to promote is to promote and maintain price stability, a strong financial system, and safe, efficient payments and settlement system conducive to a sustainable and inclusive growth of the economy. So, there are three core function of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, which is price stability, financial stability, and efficient payments and settlement system. So first is price stability. So stability, it refers to condition of low and stable inflation. By keeping price the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, it helps to ensure strong and sustainable economic growth and better living standards. The second is the financial stability. So financial stability is the state when prospective systematic risks are mitigated so as to allow financial consumers, both individual and corporate entities, to pursue viable economic goals while avoiding disruptions to the smooth functioning of the financial system that can negatively affect the rest of the economy. The third is the efficient payment and settlement system. So, the payment and settlement system, it is the entirety of payment instrument of common rules, procedure, and supportive technical and program facilities for implementation of clearing and transfer of funds and execution of final settlement. So, which is used to provide a payment of a beneficiary. And also in payment settlement system, it is important to reduce the cost of exchanging goods and services. So, my next topic is the other function of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, first is determination of the exchange rate policy, manager of official reserve stability. Third is the banks lender of last resort. And the fourth is issuer of money. The last is official depository and advisor of the national government. So the first is the determination of the exchange rate policy. So determination of the exchange rate policy, the Bangko Sentral Pilipinas determines the exchange rate policy of the Philippines currently. The Bangko Sentral Pilipinas adheres to market-oriented foreign exchange rate policy such that the role of the BSP or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is principally to ensure orderly condition in the market, that exchange rate in Philippine peso with a different currency that we have now is basically dictated by the market. So market oriented, because of market oriented, so in economics it is a factor also a demand and supply. Next is the manager of official reserve. The Bangko Sentral Pilipinas manage the country's GIR. Next is the bank of banks, lender of last resort. The BSP transact with the bank only and gives loan when warranted. So the next is the insurer of money. It holds the exclusive authority to insure the country's currency. All issued currency completely backed by the government, and it is accepted as the payment of all private and public debts. The next is the official depository and advisor of the national government. So, the national government maintains the deposit with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, while the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas advise the national government on borrowing.
Good day, sir. I am Desiree Claros and I am the third reporter from Topic 1 on Prefinal coverage. So my topic is all about the responsibilities of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, when we say responsibilities, it is a duty that we need to deal with something. So, in this topic, I am going to add some information or some idea about the responsibilities of the. So, as you can see here, there are already the three responsibilities of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, in addition, the BSP are responsible or their principal duty is to develop more and carry out the policies in the fields or in terms of money, banking, and credit with the main goal to ensure the price stability. So, when there is low and stable inflation, there is a price stability. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas contributes to ensure the solid and sustainable economic growth and higher standards living to maintain its price stability. So, for me, it is very important to know the responsibilities of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas so that we can be aware on what's going on in our economy in terms of financial system. So, next is the primary objective of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, when we say objectives, it is something you plan or you need to achieve. So, today, let's talk about the primary objective or the goal or the plan that the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas need to achieve or to maintain. So, as you can see here also, there are 4 primary objectives of the BSP or the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So, it states here on how to maintain or to promote the monetary stability, the financial stability, or on how to oversee the payment. So, it is very important to maintain this kind of objective, to maintain also the economic growth and the price stability.
So, good day everyone. I am Dayani Arnigo and my topic is all about the regulation and supervision of financial institutions. Before I proceed, let me explain to you what is the regulation and supervision of financial institution. So, BSP is the Financial Supervisory Authority. So, the bank regulation refers to the written rules that define acceptable behavior and conduct for financial institution. So, the bank supervision refers to the enforcement of these rules. So, the importance of regulation and supervision of financial institution is ensuring the safety and soundness of the financial system and protecting consumers. Let's proceed to the Manual of Regulation for Bank or MORB. The primary source of regulation governing entities supervised by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The BSP is the responsible of regulating the bank industry. It means that the BSP is the one who creates of all the regulations, government entities, and the policy in all the bank here in the Philippines. Regulations. First is foreign exchange regulation. These regulations aim to maintain a stable foreign exchange market, protect the value of Philippine peso, and promote a transparent and efficient foreign exchange system. Foreign exchange regulation is important for individual and business engaging in foreign exchange transaction in the Philippines. To be aware of this regulation is to ensure the compliance and avoid any penalties or legal issues. Next is guidelines on the establishment of banks. The BSP emphasized the eligibility of shareholders, adequate to financial strength, and sufficient skills and integrity of management, among other factors. as part of its chartering process to ensure that the proposed bank will run in a secure and responsible manner. The next one is the implementation of Basel Standard in the Philippines. So BSP started the implementation of Basel III reforms in 2014. The Basel III framework is a set of international standard that aims to strengthen the capital and liquidity of banks to reduce the risk of financial crisis. So the goal of implementation of Basel standard in the Philippines is to ensure that the country banking system is strong and resilient to future shocks and helps to strengthen the financial system. Next is compliance with PFRS or PAS. PFRS stands for Philippine Financial Report Standards and PAS stands for Philippine Accounting Standard. So compliance with PFRS or PAS is a set of accounting standards that are adopted in the Philippines. It is issued by the Philippines Accounting Standard Council to govern the preparation of financial statements. So the adoption of new set of standard is aimed to promoting fairness, transparency, and accuracy in financial reporting. Financial Sector Assessment Program or FSAP is a joint program of the International Monetary Fund IMF and World Bank. It is a comprehensive and in-depth assessment of a country financial sector. So, the FSAP is an important tool for promoting financial stability and economic growth. It is a valuable resource for countries that are committed to strengthen their financial system. Other regulations. First is registration of pawn shop and money service business. The BSP requires pawn shop and NSB to be registered with the BSP before they can operate. If the application is approved, the BSP will issue a certificate of registration. Next is request for money board opinion on domestic government. The MBO is not a guarantee that borrowing will be approved. The final decision on the borrowing will made by the BSP Monetary Board.
Good day everyone, my name is Angelica Fuso. Today we're going to talk about on how to establish a bank. Of course, you cannot operate a bank without the approval of the BSP or the Banco Central of the Philippines. Now, on establishing a bank, you have first to classify your banks. The first type of bank is the universal bank. Universal bank is just like the commercial bank. However, universal bank can invest to its non-allied undertaking and own up to 100% of equity in thrift bank, rural bank. The second type of bank is the commercial bank. Commercial bank serves its individual and organization by offering a deposits, withdrawals, checking of accounts, and savings account and loan services. The next is the thrift bank. The thrift bank focuses on accumulating and investing to its depositors' savings. Next is the rural bank. Rural bank is popular in the communities. They provide basic financial services to its residents. Their goal is to promote and expand the local economy by orderly and effective manner. The fifth bank is the cooperative bank. The cooperative bank is just like the rural bank, however, they differ in ownership. The rural bank was privately owned and managed, while the cooperative bank was organized or owned by the cooperative or the Federation of Cooperative. They also assist farmers through financial services and solutions. The next bank is the Islamic Bank. This bank follows the principle of the Islamic law or the Sharia. Their operation does not involve in interest because it was prohibited by the Sharia. This bank was established to give the Muslim Filipino a greater access to the bank products and services. The last is the digital bank. This is a new formal category which was approved by the Central Bank of the Philippines in 2020. This bank largely offers financial services and products through digital platforms or electronic channel. Of course, in establishing a bank, the BSP is consistent with its relevant laws, rules, and regulation. Their licensing framework encompasses the assessment of the transparency of ownership and control structures. These include the suitability of shareholders, the ultimate beneficial owners, the fitness and propriety of directors and senior management, and the adequacy of capital. This includes the sources of initial capital and the ability of the shareholders to provide financial support where needed. The assessment also covers the strategic and operating plan, including an appropriate system of corporate governance, risk management and internal control, projected financial condition, and the consumer's assistance mechanism and the compliance with anti-money laundering and the combating financing of terrorism regulations. The full entry of the foreign banks. Foreign bank may operate in the Philippines and may apply in any classification of banks I mentioned a while ago. But in entering the banking system, they may choose three modes as provided by the Republic Act 10641, or also known as an act allowing the full entry of the foreign bank in the Philippines. Mode 1, by acquiring, purchasing, or owning up 100% of voting stock of the existing domestic bank. Mode 2, by investing in up to 100% of the voting stock to a new banking subsidiary incorporated in the Philippines. Or Mode 3, by establishing branches with full banking authority. When establishing and operating in the Philippines, foreign bank must comply with the following selection criteria pursuant to the Republic Act 10641. The first is the geographical representation and complementation. The second is the strategic trade and investment relationship between the Philippines and the country of incorporation of the foreign banks. The third is the bank's demonstrated capacity, its reputation for financial innovation and the stability in a competitive environment. The fourth is the reciprocity right enjoyed by the Philippines in the home country of the applicants.
Good day everyone, my name is Roland A. Hinampas, and today we will discuss about the full entry of foreign banks. Foreign banks applicant must comply with the following selection criteria pursuant to RA number 104641. There are four criteria to comply with the foreign banks. First, we have the willingness of the foreign bank. The willingness of the foreign bank to build a good quality of services to the people under banking technology. Because banking technology is very important to give solution and provide financial services. Financial services organization with the keys. And overall, technology is transforming the industry in a multitude ways, from improving financial experience to increasing security and reducing cost. Second is the sound banking system. A sound banking system is one in which individual with most of the system asset and liabilities efficiently intermediate financial transactions are solvent and meet capital adequacy requirements, and it also to ensure the soundness of the financial system by acting as a lender. This is also mandating deposit insurance that pays off if a bank defaults on its deposit liabilities. Third is a public company. A public company is a company that has sold all or portion of itself to the public by an initial public efforts, and the advantage of these public companies have their ability to tap the financial market by selling stocks or bonds. And remember, public companies are their companies owned by individuals and not by a government. Slide is the relevant regulation and documentary requirements. Why do we need to submit a document to BSP and supervisory policy and research document? The bank should submit document to the SPRD to make sure that their companies involved examining to make sure that the financial condition of individuals bank and evaluating their compliance with the laws and regulation, and the main purpose of this regulation is the process of setting and enforcing for bank the other financial institution to protect consumers, ensure financial stability of the financial system, and prevent financial crime. Next slide is the implementation of Basel Standard in the Philippines. Implementation of Basel Standard in the Philippines is strengthen the regulation, supervision, and risk management of banks, and strengthen the capital and liquidity standards so that the banking industry becomes more resilient against financial and economic stress. There are four implementation standards in the Philippines. First, we have the risk-based capital adequacy framework in the Philippines. The main purpose of the risk-based capital is to protect the financial firms, investors, and their clients, and the economic as a whole. Second is the leverage ratio. The leverage ratio is to reduce the risk of such periods and the leveraging in the future and the damage they inflict on the broader financial system and economy. Third, third one is the domestic economy. It is focused on the impact of a bank may have on the domestic economy if it fails, rather than the risk of failure, and therefore not only covered not only covered consolidated groups but also subsidiaries. The last one is the purpose of this is to maintain a certain stock of quality high quality liquid assets to help the bank stays afloat during a financial crisis, at least until the government on the central bank can come to its source. And the last one is the compliance with past or peers. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP deviation local and international accounting standards to apply the preparation for prudential report to the BSP, and there are as follow. First, we have consolidated financial statement. What is consolidated financial statement? Consolidated financial statement is a present of the asset, liabilities, equity, income, expenses, and the purpose of this is to portray an accurate features of the group financial position, including asset, profit, and equity. The second one is the provisioning requirement. The provisioning requirement means that the bank should set aside or prescribe an amount of money from the profit to compensate for probable loss, and it aims to cover risk, and it help your company secure by ensuring employees buy access only the apps that use. The third one is accrued interest. Accrued interest is related to credit card, loans, investments, savings, and beyond what it says. Non-accrual is an accrued loan that is no longer generating its stated interest rate because no payment has been made by the borrower for 90 days. When it says non-performing loss, it is a loan in which the borrower is on default and hasn't any schedule of payments. That's all.
Good day, everyone. I am Carl James Largadas, and my topic is all about financial sector assessment program. So, from the word itself, financial assessment, it is the process of making of our life goals through the proper management of our finances, and also it is a thorough analysis of our nation's financial system. So, what is the importance of financial sector assessment program? So it is to help the countries minimize the occurrence and severity of financial crisis, and also to help nations identify and address vulnerabilities. It involves analyzing risk to financial stability and evaluating a nation's financial system global norms. In addition, financial sector assessment program helps to bring financial sector analysis closer to the center of economic policy discussions within the country and within the fund and the bank. So for the registration of pawn shops and money service businesses, so for pawn shops, it is the oldest sources of credit or one of the most convenient sources of credit, particularly for small borrowers who are not eligible for small loans from other financial institutions. They provide an additional sources of credit. So for the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Circular Number 1039 dated 3 of May 2019 on the amendments to the N and R regulations of the manual regulations for non-bank institutions. And for the BSP Memorandum Number or the BSP 2019-018 dated July 2, 2019 on the guidelines of the submission of application for registration and activities requiring prior BSP approval or notification. And lastly, the BSP Memorandum number or the memorandum of 2018-030 dated 2 of October 2018 on the guidelines on the electronic submission of report on remittance, money changing or the foreign exchange and virtual currency exchange transactions to BSP Supervisory Data Center or SDC. So for the money service and businesses, it is it is the financial institution or entity that offers various of financial services, primarily the involving the transmission or conversion of money. It is also regulates the entities that facilitate the movement of funds through domestically or internationally, often providing services to individuals and businesses.
Hello, I am Maybelline Seracho and I'm going to discuss the other regulations. Request for Monetary Board opinion on domestic government borrowings. Request for MB opinion by local government units or the LGUs are: number 1 is LGU request letter. The second is list of outstanding loans. Third is pro forma ordinance. And the fourth is the pro forma waiver resolution. And the fifth is post-borrowing report. These five are the documents that need by the LGUs to request for the monetary board. I have the sample of these five documents. And the first picture is the LGU request letter. This picture is the sample of the LGU request letter. And the second picture is the list of outstanding loan sample, this one. And the third picture is the sample of pro forma ordinance. And the fourth sample in the picture is pro forma waiver resolution. And the fifth sample is the post-borrowing report, this picture. And the next is request for MB opinion by GOCCs, the WDs, SUCs. Are the number 1 is the GOCC WD SUC request letter. And the second is the pro forma board resolution. The third is pro forma corporate secretary certificate. And the fourth is list of outstanding loans. And 5 is the post-borrowing report. These 5 also are the documents that need by the GOCCs, WDs, SUC's request for the monetary board. I have here the sample of these 5 documents. And the first picture is the GOCC WD SUC request letter. And this one is the pro forma board resolution sample. And the third one is the pro forma corporate secretary's certificate. And the fourth one sample is the list of outstanding loans. And the fifth is the post-borrowing report. And the next is the reportorial requirements for lending institution. Number 1 is the post-loan release report by the LGUs. And the second is the post-loan release report by the GOCCs, WDs, SUCs. And the third is the pro forma corporate secretary's certificate. And the fourth is sworn certificate on lendings by the LGUs. And the fifth is the sworn certificate on lendings by the GOCCs, WDs, and SUCs. These 5 are the documents of the reportorial requirements. And these 5 documents are the reportorial requirements for lending operation by the LGUs and the GOCCs. I have the sample of these 5 documents. And the first picture is the post-loan release report by the LGUs. And then in the second picture is the post-loan release report by the GOCCs, WDs, and the SUCs. And the third picture is the pro forma corporate secretary certificate. And the fourth is the sworn certification on lendings by the LGUs. And the last picture is the sworn certificate on lendings by the GOCCs, WDs, and SUCs. Those are the other regulations. Thank you.
The BSP is the Philippine Central Bank. Its forerunner was the Central Bank of the Philippines, which was founded in 1949. In 1993, the central bank ceased operations. The new Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was established by Congress pursuant to RA 7653 or the BSP Charter. Its new logo, adopted in 2010, features the Philippine Eagle, which symbolizes the BSP's aspiration to soar toward becoming a world-class monetary authority. It has 3 stars representing the 3 pillars of central banking. To carry out its mandate, the BSP focuses on these three pillars of strength. The first pillar is price stability. This entails keeping inflation low and stable to promote economic efficiency and improve the well-being of Filipinos. This is the primary mandate of the Bangko Sentral. The second pillar is financial stability. The BSP seeks to maintain the health of the banking system so that it can effectively intermediate between providers and users of funds. The BSP enforces rules and regulations to ensure that banks conduct business in a safe and sound manner. The third pillar is an efficient payments and settlement system. This helps ensure the safe, timely, and accurate payment and settlement of financial transactions. The BSP's various responsibilities touch the lives of Filipinos. The BSP is tasked with promoting price stability. It uses its various policy tools to help keep inflation low and create the environment for sustained and inclusive growth. Price stability preserves the purchasing power of the Filipino people. The BSP is also the supervisor of all banks. It monitors and examines the operations of banks and quasi-banks all over the country. It also regulates, under special laws, other financial institutions such as non-stock savings and loan associations as well as pawn shops. If the banks are strong, people are encouraged to save and in the process help finance economic activities. Jobs are created. Income is earned. The BSP is the only agency that can issue Philippine banknotes and coins. These are used by the public in daily business and commercial transactions. The BSP manages the country's international reserves. These are foreign assets, mostly composed of investments in foreign-issued securities, gold, and foreign exchange. The BSP maintains adequate international reserves to meet the economy's foreign exchange requirements. This also helps keep the value of the Philippine peso stable. When the external sector is robust, the market has more confidence in the Philippines and foreign investors are encouraged to come. This directly promotes economic growth. The BSP determines the country's exchange rate policy. The current policy allows market forces to determine the exchange rate. This flexibility ensures that a true level of foreign exchange is reflected and induces a more efficient allocation of resources in the economy. This is good for business. This is good for the economy. The BSP is the banker of banks. As the lender of last resort, it can provide loans and financial assistance to banks when necessary. Finally, the BSP is the banker, financial advisor, and official depository of the Philippine government. In addition to its core tasks, the BSP is committed to its various advocacy programs. Economic and financial learning to empower Filipinos to make sound economic and financial decisions. Financial inclusion to enable every Filipino to partake of the fruits of economic development. Consumer protection to safeguard the welfare of the citizenry, especially the vulnerable members of society. Clean note policy and anti-counterfeiting campaigns to maintain the integrity of the peso. Coin recirculation to flush out idle coins to ensure that consumers receive exact change and to save on coin production cost. Culture and arts to help showcase and preserve our artistic heritage. And other corporate social responsibility initiatives. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas seeks to provide a solid anchor for the economy as well as leadership through changing times. It touches our lives and helps mold our future. Now, what do you know about the BSP?
Hello, so this is for the subject monetary policy and central banking. The topic for this one is BSP guidelines and other regulations. So we're here on the website of Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, bsp.gov.ph, and then we have this particular page for the regulations, guidelines, and other regulations. So to differentiate between regulations and supervision. So the regulations are the rules, the laws, the circulars, essentially the written rules and regulations. And then supervision is the implementation of the regulations. Okay, so the execution to make sure that the regulations are being complied with by the banks and financial institutions. Okay. So under the BSP regulations, we have the following. Foreign exchange regulations. So if you'd like to read this one, you can do so. But we'll just have an overview. Why is it necessary for the BSP to regulate all these things? Okay, so for foreign exchange, since of course, our country is doing international trade and we have businesses that are operating on a global scale or international level, then there is a need to regulate the foreign exchange of our currency with the other currency. So daily or every trading day, the BSP determines the current foreign exchange rates, okay, through the other currencies, okay. In line with the thrust of the BSP to promote a policy environment that is market-oriented and supportive of the Philippine economy's sustained expansion. The BSP, through the International Operations Department, ensures that the country's foreign exchange regulatory framework remains appropriate for the needs of a dynamic and expanding economy. Essentially, the foreign exchange rates also follow the law on supply and demand. If there is a greater demand for our currency, then it normally goes up. But if it is, if there is less demand for it, then it normally goes down, right? So they regulate this to ensure the, proper, conduct of, exchange. And then they have guidelines on establishing banks and of course the operations as well of the different types of banks. We've had this in, the subject banking and financial institutions, okay? So establishing banks are, cater to the general public, and it involves the handling of the public's money, the people's money. So it's very important for them to be regulated to ensure that the money of the public is protected and that they would not be involved in, fraudulent activities, hiding away the money, stealing them. Okay, so there is a need for regulation to ensure the safety of the funds, okay, of the public money. And then for establishing banks, they do have certain requirements, like in the management, who are allowed to manage or head the operations of a bank to ensure that these people know what they're doing, right? And that they are experts and in a way they have good reputation in the financial industry, okay? And then of course there's a minimum capital requirement depending on the type of bank that one is going to establish, okay? And of course there are other requirements as well, okay? Implementation of Basel standards in the Philippines. So these are essentially, what they call that, risk management standards, to protect the financial situation of the financial condition of the banks and financial institutions, the reserve requirements, the ratio. So we will be discussing that later on in FS analysis, okay, and then we'll be applying it in one of the banks of the Philippines, okay. So you can also check the contents of this one. Let's check the first one, okay. Have here the implementation of Basel standards in the Philippines. Implementation of Basel III. On January 15, 2013, the BSP released Circular number 781 which provides the implementing guidelines on the revised risk-based capital adequacy framework, particularly on the minimum capital and disclosure requirements. The new framework, which took effect in 2014, is applicable to all universal and commercial banks, and their subsidiary banks and quasi-banks. This framework allowed a reasonable transition period for banks to comply with the new minimum requirements. International rules allow staggered implementation. The BSP adopted the capital reforms in full in recognition of the strong capital position of the banking industry. Okay, if the banks are, they have the financial capability, there's no need for the staggered implementation. If it can be implemented immediately, then I think that's what the BSP did, okay? BSP implements new minimum capital ratios of 6% Common Equity Tier 1, and then 7.5% Tier 1 ratio, and 10% Total Capital Adequacy ratio. So 10% the reserve requirement. A capital conservation buffer of 2.5% comprised of CET1 capital was also prescribed. And recognition of the distinct structure of foreign bank branches, which operates under the universal and commercial license, a calibrated Basel III framework was issued under Circular Number 822 dated December 13, 2014. The reform highlighted the role of permanently assigned capital, which is the CET1 equivalent for foreign banks. Shortly after, RA number 10641, amending RA 7721, was approved to further liberalize the entry of foreign banks. Okay, so this part here is imposed on foreign banks. To implement this law, the BSP issued Circular Number 858 dated November 21, 2014, providing the new capital computation for foreign bank branches. Okay. So if you notice, the BSP issues a lot of circulars. When I was still working at LDP, Cash and Accounting Center, if we have idle time, normally what we do is we read the memos and we read the circulars. Okay. In October 2014, Circular Number 856, Basel III Framework for Dealing with Domestic Systemically Important Banks, DSIBs, was issued to address systemic risk and interconnectedness by identifying banks which are deemed systemically important within the domestic banking industry. Okay. Minimum buffers is composed of CET1 capital shall be required of systemically important banks starting January 2017. So additional requirements, reportorial requirements for certain banks. Okay. Implementation of Basel II BSP Circular Number 538 dated August 4, 2006 contains the implementing guidelines on the revised risk-based capital adequacy framework for the Philippine banking system to conform with Basel II recommendation. Essentially, Basel guidelines. These are normally adopted by all over the world, right? The guidelines, which took effect on July 1, 2007, provide approaches that may be used in computing the regulatory capital requirements for credit market and operational risk. So, if you've already seen the sample, the financial statement of BPI and BDO, there is a section there for risk management, and then they've addressed the different types of risk, including credit market and operational risk, as well as additional supervisory information which needs to be disclosed to the public. Okay. To address the second pillar, BSP issued Circular Number 639 on January 15, 2009, which took effect on January 1, 2011, made applicable to universal and commercial banks at consolidated level only. Okay, so the subsidiaries branches are do not need to. Okay, just the consolidated report. Circular Number 639 contains the guiding principles that banks should follow in designing their internal capital adequacy assessment process, and BSP supervision and examination personnel should consider in assessing a bank's ICAP, engaging the bank in an ICAP dialogue, and proposing prudential measures if deemed necessary. So, after examination, they do provide, advices and steps that need to be taken to improve the situation of the banks. Okay, so it doesn't end with just examining and giving a rating. They do help, or they do guide the banks in making their situations better. Okay. On July 28, 2011, the BSP came up with supplemental guidelines on the ICAP submission of Philippine branches of foreign banks, which was embodied in Circular Number 731, dated July 28, 2011. The ICAP submissions of foreign bank branches are expected to be designed in accordance with the nature, size, complexity of their businesses in the Philippines. Okay. Implementation of Basel 1.5 standalone thrift banks. Rural banks and cooperative banks, which refer to TBs, RBs, and co-op banks, that are not subsidiaries of universal and commercial banks, are covered by a separate risk-based capital adequacy framework. So there are different issuances for them, which is a simplified version of Basel II in view of the simple operations of these covered banks. So sometimes they are not applicable in full, so they have to, in a way, customize or simplify the guidelines for smaller banks. The implementing guidelines of Basel 1.5 are contained in Circular Number 688, dated May 26, 2010, which took effect on January 1, 2012. Okay. Originating circulars of current risk-based capital adequacy frameworks. We have Basel 3, Circular Number 781, if you want to read it. So they are linked here. Basel 3 implementing guidelines on minimum capital requirements. Basel 2, Circular Number 538, title Revised Risk-Based Capital Adequacy Framework for Universal and Commercial Banks and Subsidiary Banks and Quasi-Banks. Basel 1.5, Circular Number 688, Revised Risk-Based Capital Adequacy Framework for Standalone Thrift Banks, Rural Banks, and Co-op Banks. Basel 1, Circular Number 400, Adoption of the Risk-Based Adequacy Framework by Standalone Quasi-Banks. Circular 280, Guidelines and Adoption of the Risk-Based Capital Adequacy Framework pursuant to the GBL of 2000. Okay, so we have that. And then returning to this one, so if you want to read over the different frameworks that they have for the Basel standards, you can go through here. Okay. And then we have compliance with PFRS or PAS, Philippine Financial Reporting Standards, and Philippine Accounting Standards. So this has something to do with how their financial statements are prepared and presented. Okay, the different treatments on the different items in the financial statements, how to recognize the revenues, expenses, how to report their net income, profit, okay, presentation of their assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay, so essentially contents of the financial statement. So again, if you've already seen the financial statements of BPI and BDO, you would see them. Although again, later we'll have a separate video on that so that you can see as well. Okay. So if you also want, you can check out these links. Okay. And then you have the Financial Sector Assessment Program, FSAP. This, I think it was conducted by IMF and the World Bank, which reviewed the Philippine financial system. The report was released November 2009, following the last FSAF mission conducted in 2002. It involves the assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of the financial sector of our country. The results are reflected in the technical notes on focused update of the Basel Core Principles for Effective Banking Supervision. So I think it was linked here. And then there's the access to finance, which are posted on the website of the World Bank. The technical note contains the assessment of the BSP's compliance with the standards. Normally, there are international standards, for sound prudential regulation and supervision of banks. Said technical note recognizes the improvements in the regulatory and supervisor framework for banks since the last SAP mission. The technical note on access to finance speaks of the progress made by BSP in strengthening the regulatory framework for advancing microfinance and mobile financial services. Also, I think we should also check out the latest update reports or annual reports of the BSP to know what has already happened, how they how they adapted to the current situation because of the pandemic. And of course, this information kind of, very old, 2002, 2009, and it's already 2021. So we need to update. That's why I've been saying it's important for us to read the news and to look for certain updates from these institutions so we know what's happening, right? Then we have other regulations, regulation of pawn shops and money service businesses, request for monetary board opinion and domestic government borrowings. Okay. Essentially in BFI, banking and financial institutions. So we've covered the different financial institutions. We've covered pawn shops there and other non-bank financial institutions. Okay. And then, in a previous video, we've covered the functions of the monetary board. Although not in depth, but I think it's enough that we have an overview, okay, of what they do, okay. So that's it for this one. Again, we've covered the BSP regulations, guidelines, and other regulations. Although again, just an overview, not the very in-depth. Just the importance and why they have to do this thing. Okay. So that's it for this one. Thanks and bye.